Again, just before we start, a quick reminder to join us on the Discord. That's the first link in the description. It's very active, and I think if you watch this channel, you will really enjoy it there. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be covering facial scars, especially how post-traumatic scarring may increase a person's perceived social worth. This episode is mainly, for our male audience. Just a disclaimer, it should go without saying that the intention of this video is not to belittle or to hurt anyone who is battling severe facial disfigurement, like in the cases of people who are dealing with acid attack scars or any major facial injuries. We're mainly talking about more minor facial scarring. With that being said, let's explore this 2008 study by Robert P. Buris and colleagues titled "Facial Scarring Enhances Men's Attractiveness for Short-Term Relationships." These psychologists at the University of Liverpool and Stirling decided to investigate the effects of facial scars here, and it's important to mention that this study was done from a heteronormative view by asking 115 women and 64 men to rate the attractiveness of 8 strangers of the opposite sex. Half were asked to look at original face shots, while the other half viewed images that had been digitally manipulated to add scarring to the cheek, jawbone, or forehead. While the scars made no difference to the perceived attractiveness of the women, scarred men ranked 5.7 percentage points higher in the appeal ratings than those with undamaged skin. Their results suggest that under certain circumstances, scars may advertise valued information about their bearers, and that the idea that scarring universally devalues social perceptions can no longer be assumed to be true. So in other words, scars are not really a negative. For men, they seem to actually advertise that you've gone through some kind of hardship and you came out stronger and on top. Now, let me reiterate what I think this means in much simpler terms. Some scars on men give a certain level of character, like it gives you an edge, a rebellious look, almost like a bad boy, risk-taker vibe, and it kind of does say a lot more about you than you would expect. Mainly that you've put yourself out there in a dangerous or risky situation. Now, whether that was for the right reasons or the wrong ones, perhaps trying to defend a vulnerable person, or you were just trying to pick a fight and you lost, that doesn't really matter. The main thing is that you got out there and you did something rather than staying in the comfort of your own home. Or perhaps you just got that scar trying to do some handiwork in your own home, in which case it's best you don't tell people how you got that scar. This idea is much the same with tattoos, like we covered in our podcast episode, The Perception of Tattoos, where we took a look on the Madonna-whore dichotomy. It's very common in literature that women are either a Madonna or they're a whore, and there's no in-between, and they're written as such. And following this patriarchal model, basically the findings were that women with tattoos aren't considered higher up on the social ladder compared to men with tattoos, where it's not as much of a penalizing characteristic, and this is because of multifaceted reasons. The most simple answer for this video is that it is a masculinizing characteristic, and if we go back to early hunter-gatherer societies, you're more likely to get a scar from hunting than you are from foraging for food, and just because of those gender roles, it's become associated with masculine traits. That being said, let's talk about some of the celebrities who have used their facial scars to open doors, define characters, and explore different storytelling opportunities in very much unforgettable ways. Now, don't get me wrong here, their skills have brought them the success that they deserve, and their confidence in themselves, including their scars, have made them into legends. Take the example of the scar between Joaquin Phoenix's lip and nose that is quite visible. I mean, it practically had the second billing in Gladiator. It is known as a microform cleft, which is a mild form of a cleft lip, which means that he was born with it, and it has served his career quite well, fitting perfectly into the roles in which he has played a tough, multi-dimensional character like 1999's AMM, 2012's The Master, where we see him as a volatile World War II veteran, or well, everyone's favorite, the Joker. His facial scars give him the edge as a dangerous-looking character. I think it's safe to assume that a female actress with similar amount of scarring and facial features would also be seen as a cutthroat character, but you don't see that as often in Hollywood, and I suppose this is for some kind of patriarchal reason, but it seems that the directors like to keep the female lead's face clean, and a good example of this was with The Batman, where Robert Pattinson had a decent amount of facial scarring, but Zoe Kravitz had none, and to me it kind of downplays her role as Batman's equal, where she doesn't have as much scarring, so therefore she just serves as a pretty face and eye candy, whereas realistically, they should be very compatible fighters who have gone through equal amounts of battles and therefore have similar amounts of scarring, but it's not a coincidence that Zoe Kravitz has perfectly clear skin. Another example of scarring being used to male advantage is Game of Thrones' casting of Jason Momoa as the formidable Khal Drogo, which is arguably a stroke of genius. Momoa's scars fit the role perfectly, just as it would eventually complement his portrayal of the trident-bearing heir to the throne of Atlantis in Aquaman. Now, the story behind the scar also adds to the appeal, as we mentioned in the study previously, and he said in an interview that he actually got it in a bar fight in which he took a pint of glass to the face. It's quite interesting that a scar, something that may commonly be seen as a negative, can actually be used to your benefit in a casting. Last example, how can we forget Tom Hiddleston's forehead scar? But Hiddleston did perfect justice with his smooth charm and wicked smile, and the scar very much added some depth to the character. I know personally I wouldn't trust somebody with a clean baby face to convince me that he's gone through many different fights. Also very interesting from an aesthetic perspective to observe that in almost all action movies, after fight scenes or a car accident or what say you, we can evidently see a fresh wound strategically placed by the makeup artist on either one cheekbone like this, so like Doctor Strange, or two lips like here. Now, this is strictly in no way or shape or form to make you men indulge in the idea of getting a self-inflicted wound to increase your sexual appeal. Scars do undeniably make many men look more masculine and rugged and show that they're able to overcome adversity, but you need to actually go through some adversity to overcome that. Self-inflicting wounds to look more aesthetic is a very silly idea. It has to make sense with your character. You would expect an MMA fighter or somebody who's really into martial arts to have some scarring. You wouldn't expect somebody who plays Pokemon Go all day. No disrespect to Pokemon Go, but you wouldn't expect them to have the same level of scarring or for the same reasons. Not all scars are built the same, and oftentimes as women rely more on emotional connection rather than physical attraction, the story that goes with the scar is the most attractive part of the whole aesthetic itself. If you say that you got the scar from falling off a log trying to catch some Pokemons, it's very different to saying you got the scar trying to defend a young lady as a security guard working as a bouncer one day. In a 1988 study by Shannon, Life Histories, Blood Revenge and Warfare in a Tribal Population, it is noted that post-traumatic scars that are acquired through combat or other heroic behaviors may also serve to advertise valued traits. For example, Yanomamo men of the tribe from Venezuela often shave their heads and rub red pigment into their scalps to increase the visibility of their scars, thus demonstrating their bravery and ability to withstand and recover from an enemy's blow. Not all scars are made equal. Rindermierschmisch, that is such a tough word to pronounce, but it's a German word meaning bragging scars, referring to the days of academic fencing, where men would oftentimes wear these scars like a medal. This wasn't that long ago either. The late 1980s, people would crudely suture their inflicted cuts so that they could wear them like medals. You wouldn't properly heal the cut, you'd do it in a way that left a scar on purpose. I don't know if you've noticed this, but most Bond villains seem to have a scar, and it's very much the same idea here. They wear it like a medal. So, to sum things up for you, what have we learnt here? Boys and girls, basically facial scars are perceived by women as an attractive quality for short-term relationships because they find it to be a symbol of masculinity, a feature that is linked to high testosterone levels and an indicator of good genes, but also they show that you can overcome difficulties in your life and come out on top. Now, men without scars, however, could be seen as more caring and therefore more suitable for long-term relationships, and this is something we've spoken ad nauseum on the podcast. And also, if you haven't joined us already on the Discord server, it was newly made a couple of weeks ago, then I don't know what you're waiting for. The link is in the description. As always, if you want to get your face assessed by our team of doctors and dentists and learn about your facial aesthetic, you can also order a aesthetic report over at the website or follow us on TikTok and Instagram.